The great American writer Tom Wolfe once said words to the effect of, "It seems like fascism is always descending on the United States, but somehow always lands on Europe." It was a clever joke, but today it might need a bit of updating. Today, he might have said, "It seems like the left is always accusing the right of fascism, but somehow always winds up acting a bit, well, fascist themselves." What am I talking about? Let's find out as we dive into a special Roe versus Wade meltdown edition of Busting the Narrative. Now look, if there is one thing we have learned to expect from Democrats, it is calm, measured, reasoned responses to events when things don't go their way. Take, for example, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's 2020 warning that Supreme Court justices who didn't do his bidding would reap the whirlwind and pay the price.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price.
And then there was Elizabeth Warren's perfectly calm reaction to a leak suggesting, correctly as it turned out, that the Supreme Court would overturn Roe versus Wade.
The United States Congress can keep Roe versus Wade the law of the land. They just need to do it.
I've never seen you so angry. You seem to be...
This is what the Republicans have been working toward this day for decades.
Now, the question of whether politics is downstream from culture or vice versa is an interesting one. But the likes of Schumer and Warren certainly set the tone for what has happened ever since. At the same time, they were attacking Donald Trump for not respecting norms and institutions of the democratic process. Democrats have themselves been undermining institutions like the Supreme Court ever since Republican-appointed nominees gained a majority, and it looked like their ability to use it to push through their far-left progressive agenda was threatened. Now, note that the left has been assaulting the court and its independence for years. Not that the media has paid much attention to it. Threats, intimidation, violence, and an absolute horror that democratic processes are allowed to prevail. These are the hallmarks of the new left, which in fact looks, frankly, depressingly a lot like the old left. Some years back, Chief Justice John Roberts famously reversed his opinion on Obamacare after an intense protest and media pressure campaign. Now, with the Roe v. Wade decision, things have gotten even worse. Religious-run crisis pregnancy centers across the country have been vandalized, smashed, and firebombed, at least 18 at last count. Protesters were foiled barely in their plans to blockade the Supreme Court, and what they planned on doing with it once they finally achieved their aim is, well, anyone's guess. Then, more sinister, police in suburban Washington refused to enforce federal laws that banned protests outside judges' homes in the hope of getting them to change their vote. Pretty reasonable, but as surely as night follows day, this led to a man allegedly attempting to assassinate Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, showing up at his house with a bag full of cable ties, weapons, and burglary equipment. All of this brings up a huge question, and this is what this is all about. Namely, who rules the country? A progressive elite that is hell-bent on remaking the country in its own interests via the courts and the bureaucracy? Or does that privilege go, as the founders intended, to the great mass of American voters who demand to be represented at the ballot box? As American lawyer John Heineraker put it on his incisive Powerline website, quote, "I think several elements are at work here, but the most basic is that liberals, that is Democrats, do not want to take the issue of abortion to the voters." Remember, everybody, that, of course, all the Roe overturning did was send it back to state legislatures. Heineraker continues and said, "They do not want to have to make their case. They do not want to have to argue and persuade. Rather, they want all views opposed to their own to be banned and unheard, delegitimized." Now, it does seem pretty ironic that the same people who complain that the right is ushering a fascist theocracy where people have no choice are, in the end, themselves so scared of democracy. Thanks for watching. I'm James Morrow, and to support this channel, please like, share, and subscribe below, and I'll see you next week for more Busting the Narrative.